All right. What is this? What are we
This
what
is
are we
episode
at here?
10. This is episode
This is
10.
the perfect 10. Perfect 10. So
Perfect.
this is gonna be a perfect episode of the Bar Banter podcast. Um and I feel like we're just kind of really kind of hitting our stride here. We're about ready to take this thing to the next level.
Absolutely.
Um, so that's good. Um We've got since the last time that we talked, there was quite a few things happened
Yes.
in the world of sports, um, also in the world of beer,
Yes.
and which is kind of one of the things that I want to talk to you about, like
Okay. Yeah.
but we'll get into it, but
Hmm.
because one of the biggest beer events in the world is taking place right now in Munich, Germany,
Okay.
Oktoberfest.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, I've been watching everything I can on it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's definitely a bucket list thing,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
both for the amazingness of it and the disaster that it is too.
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, it's just like crowds are unbelievable and all that other kind of stuff, and it's the good, the bad, and the ugly with it. But so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about I've got some questions for you and things like that. Maybe a fun little game or whatever. And then we'll talk about so what's going on in the world of sports. So since we last talked, what just recently happened was, the baseball playoffs are set. The Tigers completed their absolute catastrophe fall. And ended up losing the division, which was unbelievable.
Horrible.
They were 15 and a half game lead and lost the division, but they're in the playoffs, so then they get to go and play Cleveland
Yep.
in the best of three. Um, there we had the Ryder Cup, which
We did.
was a boat race at the beginning, and then singles on Sunday made it a little bit of fun and a little bit interesting. I do want to talk to you about the one little weird thing about that. Well, a couple things with it, the crowd and all that other
Mhm.
kind of stuff. And then there was the whole thing about Victor Hovland had the sore neck because he slept on it wrong. I mean, he's like your age, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, what are we
what
doing?
goes on
Yeah.
here? Like, I can
Well,
understand if it's
actually, I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
okay. Well, but and then the rule with that with him withdrawing was kind of a little funky on that. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, what do you got? What do you got for us? And I didn't even mention the NFL's that's been
Oh
going
yeah,
on,
we got
which is
yeah, yeah. Which
which
is
is
incredible.
craziness over
Yeah.
here.
Um,
But
but yeah, so I mean, as you guys can see, the different type of layout here for me. Still in the same apartment. I just thought I'd spice it up a little bit. I'm on the couch, nice little relaxed vibe. What do you guys think? You guys like it? Do you not? Do you want me to go back to the desk? No fireplace behind me. I know the fireplace was a fan favorite.
it was, but you're kind of given like um like what is it, the OnlyFans vibes there
Well,
on the couch? Are you gonna show some feet pics and stuff like that too?
I am giving a lot of
Is that what we're gonna
a
do?
lot of
You got a
pelvic
lot. You got a
action
lot
going on
of
here.
central crotch area
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
which
If
is
you guys,
to bring in the female audience
yes,
is what we're looking for there.
if you guys click the link in our bio, you can undress me in this
So
seat.
the link is actually if you hover right above his crotch, then that's the link.
That is the Bar Banter OnlyFans link there. But but no,
Okay.
yeah. So still living large here in Columbus. Still rocking the OSU tailgates and still going to class and hanging out on campus and just hacky in the oval. It's a little
Hacky in the
hacky
oval. You got to
happening
do
in
the
the oval.
hacky of the oval.
but uh
Does
but
anybody
no,
okay,
yeah.
here's that so that brings it up a good thing though. Like, right. So like does anybody hacky anymore?
I haven't seen
Have
and in
you when was
fact,
the last time you saw somebody hack a sack?
Man, the last time I seen some hacky sack action, it had to have been 5 years ago. Like, I'd probably go back to high school. And now I graduated
That was our
almost,
thing in college when I was right out of college or right out of high school
yeah.
and into college. That was our thing. We loved the hack, man. We thought we were
Well, I graduated high school about 7 years ago now, and I think the last time I genuinely saw a little hacky what was in high school. So it's been a minute. And then I mentioned the Oval. For those of anybody who knows Ohio State or went to Ohio State or goes to Ohio State, the Oval is like supposed to be like the spot where like people just like kind of veg out on the lawn, picnic, tan, whatever.
lay a
Uh,
blanket down,
yeah, lay a
do
blanket
some
down.
reading,
Yeah, maybe some arts and crafts, some
maybe a
drawings.
Sudoku.
Ooh, a little Sudoku.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I walk past the Oval every day in between classes, and there's never anybody posted up.
no
It's like
hacks.
nobody cares about the Oval anymore, and
I
I'm
think
almost
we're the
wondering if
best.
if COVID ruined that.
Another
That's what it
casualty of
was.
COVID was the hacky
That's what
sack.
it was. That's what I was thinking of. Okay. While I mentioned that, and we can get into it real quick, but this was the question that had in my head that I thought I forgot, but I just remembered it. So the bar scene, right? You talk about bars and the type of experiences you can have at bars. Um, how different has the bar scene been since COVID? What has come back and what has just completely been eliminated?
Boy, I mean, I don't know. I think that like when you get into the situation with like um see, I guess it's a little bit different now because like I'm like kind of like steering towards a certain type of bar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um like the trivia stuff has come back. I don't necessarily know if it's as big as it used to be, right? I think
No.
one of the big things that we lost was and this maybe just has to do with the interwebs and stuff like that, but we lost um the fantasy draft stuff at the bar where you put up the big
Yeah.
board and you have the sticker things and all that kind of stuff. And Buffalo Wild Wings used to have the little package or whatever that they would give you if you would hold your draft there and stuff like that. So that was always pretty cool. Um, I think, I don't necessarily know how many places are having like the karaoke, what goes on
It's
anymore. I
yeah, I
think
mean,
also a lot of the like Bloody Mary bar
yes.
and the food out like so there used to
Mhm.
be like so the certain dive bars used to have like a little hot dog station that was just
Yeah.
free or
Yeah,
whatever
like
and I
hot
think
dogs, popcorn, even a peanuts, you know.
yeah.
And
Oh
I
yeah, that's the one thing now it's
it's
like you
hard
have
to
to get the
find.
little bit the bowls of peanuts and pretzels that used to be sitting out
Hmm.
like that. I think that's a done
It's a
deal.
rarity. It's a rarity. There was one place in Orlando, Casey's, shout out Casey's, downtown Orlando that had a popcorn machine. And in fact, actually, let's shout out Perrysburg, McSwiggins.
McSwiggins
Yeah.
with the popcorn machine. Now I'll tell you something about the McSwiggins. Like I think if COVID went into the McSwiggins would kill the COVID.
Well, this is just a
You
good
know what I
point. You
mean?
know what
So
I mean?
I think
COVID was scared of McSwiggins.
COVID was like, I'm not going in there. Like there's
By
no
the
chance
way,
I'm going in there.
McSwiggins, we love you. We would love to film an episode in the bar if possible. We love the old
We'll make
McSwiggins.
that happen.
Yeah.
We will make that happen.
Is there an owner to reach out to, or do you kind of just
No.
walk in and just kind of do it?
And that's what we're trying to figure out with we've been going there for a little while now and we're trying to
Yeah, a couple
figure
years
out
now.
because although the last two times that I've been there it's been the same lady.
You think she just kind of took over? She's like, this is
I
what I
think it's
do.
her bar now
Yeah, because she was the only one who was willing
because
to show up
prior to that it
consistently.
was different people every single time. And they would
And
be like in pajamas
yeah,
and like
yeah,
half the TVs would be on like something like we didn't even know if it was open or if it was just
yeah.
somebody that
We
was
had
just sitting
Roku.
behind the bar.
The Roku screens were going on.
So
Yeah.
that's always a good thing. But yeah, I think so. A lot of that stuff has changed
Yeah.
with the. And I don't necessarily know about like the clubby type bars because I'm so far removed from
Mm,
that. Although when we go down, well, when I go down to Columbus with you, and we go to some of those bars, it kind of has that feel
yeah.
of it, like where we watched the Indiana game last year.
Yeah. Standard Hall.
Like
Shout out Standard Hall.
that place was really, really cool and how they had a bunch of different rooms and it was
And
crazy. And then they had the
yeah.
outside and so
Well,
that was still cool. I think that's all the same, right?
yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, like Standard
Back.
Hall. They have the mechanical bull at Standard
That's
Hall.
yeah.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. If you're an OSU native, Standard Hall is great. But yeah, so when you think about bars that have like multiple levels, right? Like just this like past weekend, I was in Detroit for the Browns Lions game, and Tin Roof. They used to be Chelios's bar, but at Tin Roof,
Hmm.
they've got three levels, and their second level is like a full on club. Like it's just an open
Yeah.
floor with a DJ booth and a bar. So like that aspect of it has got back to it, but there are a lot of places that never recovered from
So, and I
COVID.
think that's the key though, right? Like, so we talk about it, and I think that the places that did survive have survived stronger
Mm,
than the places that kind of fell off, right? Because
yeah.
it was almost like a consolidation. Like if you can survive this, and when we come out on the other side, you're picking up all those the people that would be going to these other places, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So then so when you come back bigger, stronger, and that kind of a thing. So I think a lot of the like the chain places that had a little bit of
Yeah.
financial backing behind
Yeah.
them, they were able to survive, for the most part. But yeah, I think that yeah, some of the stuff has changed a little bit. Like, but I think was that stuff going to change anyway outside of COVID? Like,
Probably.
I mean, like we talk about like these old dive bars that are like
Mm,
old school with it with the like the hot dog station and the
yeah.
pretzels and stuff like that or
Yeah.
whatever and the popcorn. I think that any place beyond those has kind of moved away from any of that communal
Hmm.
type stuff, right?
Yeah. But so while real quickly before we move on to the next thing, because I know you had something you wanted to ask me, but I was texting you on Saturday night. So I was in Detroit and I had my Ohio State gear on.
Hmm.
Now, as everybody knows, the Browns played the Lions on Sunday. So there was a lot of Ohio native in Detroit that weekend. And
Hmm.
I'm in that gray area where, I'm born and raised in Michigan. So all my pro teams are Detroit, but I go to Ohio State. I'm a Buckeye. So I had my Ohio State jersey on in downtown Detroit Saturday night, and I had people coming up to me being like, "OH," and I was like, "IO," and then they were like, "Go Browns," and I was like, "Well, like hold on a minute,
Is
like
good. Is
relax."
good.
They're like, "Go Indians," and I'm like, "Well," like, but then I also saw dudes wearing Ohio State hats and Browns jerseys like cheering for the Rangers to beat the Indians. So I was I like what goes on when you're in that area, Dad, of northern Ohio and southeast Michigan, like what goes on?
Oh, it's insane. I tell you one of the things because from being the Metro Detroiter, for the most part, and then mid Michigan for a few years there before coming down to the Northwest Ohio's. Um, it's crazy because everybody's always like, "Oh, Ohio," right? Like, and you think that, because you got Michigan fan who's like, "Oh, Ohio, so Ohio sucks." And you got Ohio State fan who's like, "Oh, Michigan, don't give a damn for the whole state of
State of
Michigan."
Michigan, oh,
It,
state of
but
Michigan.
but in all reality, it's such a melting pot. Like I
Hmm.
feel like being where I'm at, Northwestern Ohio, we're actually a little bit closer to Ann Arbor than we are Columbus. So there's a ton of Michigan fan around here. You also get the situation to where because we are the West and a little bit right under where Michigan is, so you do get a lot of Detroit fan. You get Tiger fan, Piston fan, Lion fan, Red Wing fan, but you also have that mix of of Cleveland fan that
Yeah.
bleeds over, right? So you get all the Cleveland fan, you get a little bit of Cincinnati coming in too, and then the other
Yeah.
part of it too is you always have. I think what I have noticed more in this area than I did notice up in Metro Detroit is more Pittsburgh fan. So you get Steeler fan that comes in, in that maybe it's a little bit closer to Pittsburgh, but it's right on the other border. But yeah, so you get the mix and all that stuff too. And it was actually kind of funny because you were telling me about that on Saturday night, and then I went to the B Dubs after the Lions game on Sunday, and I had my Lions gear on and I'm walking out, and there's a guy head to toe Tiger gear, and he looks at me. He goes, "Thanks for the ass whooping today," and I said, and I just kind of like looked at him. I'm like, "What?" He goes, Lions are really. I'm like, "Are you a Browns guy?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so I'm like talking to him, and I'm like, I mean, he was completely like all over the board. Like he was a Tiger fan, a Browns fan, a Pistons fan. He said he was a Red Wing fan just because he was a little older guy like me, and Columbus is still kind of new or whatever.
Yeah. The Blue
But then he
Jackets
was
were formed in what, 2002 or something like that.
something like that, yeah. And but then he was also an Ohio State fan. So it was like, he was
Yeah.
that.
It's like,
That's what you get, right? It's because it's like kind of like all over the place. I mean, like
it
my
is.
neighbors, right? They're all, like Cleveland, 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 but then they're Michigan fan.
Well, Brady, or and Brady, we're gonna get Brady on the podcast at some point because I need to have a word with him.
I mean, he just
But
he just likes it because he's in Ohio and it pisses people. He's like the Dave Portnoy Michigan fan. Like he just does it for trolling
okay, but
purposes.
can I be honest though? I mean, the one of the main reasons is why I became an Ohio State fan was just to piss off Michigan fan. In all honesty, it really was. So I guess
And
I
that's
get it.
what when I became a Notre Dame fan
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I guess
was
that
was
makes
to was
sense.
be the same kind of reason, right?
But so
So I
that
get it.
that leads to my other like follow up question is: so is there any sort of area within the United States that is similar to the Ohio Michigan border and the Cleveland Detroit area, Toledo Detroit area? Like, is there any other like region that's similar in the sense of like it's a gray area of like you could be like half one city and half the other because you're like in between? Like, what other areas and cities come to mind in the
So I
states?
can so I can throw a few out there, and then people, correct me if I'm wrong because I don't know for 100%, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Illinois Wisconsin border
Okay.
between Chicago teams and the Milwaukee teams, I think
Mm,
that's kind of a thing. Um,
okay.
I also will say once you get into like here's another question. Like what is considered Midwest, right? Like because
Right.
like
I was about to say.
so like you get into like the Oklahoma area. Like,
Mm,
so is Oklahoma Dallas Cowboys fans or are they Kansas City Chiefs fans?
yeah.
You know what I mean? So you get that kind of a mix there too with stuff like that. So I think that, areas like that where it's kind of like you're kind of in the you don't really have a
It-
team, but you're kind of
right.
in the middle of teams, so you kind of get to pick whatever. Um, well, you were in Florida for a long time in
Mm,
Orlando. I mean,
yeah.
what was the mix of Miami, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
What?
That was an interesting one because in all reality, like a true Floridian, they don't really care, right? Like, and again, I worked in the bar scene in Orlando, when I was down there, and I worked a lot of NFL football Sundays, with at Johnny's and Gators, and you had more of out of state fan at the bar than you did Bucks, Jags, or Dolphins. a lot of and another part of it too is like a lot of Florida native now are out of staters, right? Like there's a lot like
Right.
a lot of
So
people
you're
move
bringing
to
your team
Florida.
with you.
You bring it right. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Like there was when I worked at Johnny's, I saw more like Steeler fan, Eagles fan than anything. When I worked at Gators, we had like one little table of Dolphins dudes that came in every Sunday. It was like three guys that came in with like their mini helmets and like they were like big Dolphins guys. But to be honest with you, like it was rare to come across a Jags fan. It wasn't rare to come across a Bucks fan, but the people that claimed to be Bucks fans like didn't really care all that much. They were just kind of like, "Woo, go Bucks," you know. But it wasn't like, you know, it was a lot of out of state. Like I met a lot of Eagle fan, a lot of Steeler fan. You know, it was just kind of one of those weird things, and I think it also depends on your location too, right? Like so, like Vegas, for example. How many Vegas native are like actually diehard Golden Knight and Raider fans? Probably not much, right? Probably not
Well,
much.
that's the other part too, because they're both brand new to the area, and then now you're gonna end up with you're gonna end up with the A's, right?
Yeah, now you got the A's. Yeah,
So that's all kind of new. So Vegas, I mean, so Vegas people who born and raised in Vegas, I mean, they kind of had the pick of that whole area, right? Like, I mean, what
yeah,
are we going to be Arizona fans? Are we going to be, are we going to adopt the LA teams? You know what I mean? Or
yeah.
what do we do? Or
And
do
that's
you
but again, that's the other
or
part too. With
do you go Denver, right? Like because
yeah, well,
you look at like the Dakotas and stuff like that. Are you Minnesota or are you Denver?
yeah,
You know,
yeah, and
Nebraska,
that's
Iowa.
yeah,
Where do you go? Kind of a
yeah,
thing.
and that's the tough thing. Well, because then all right, well, and then again too, like look at California, right? So aside from the Niners, you had Oakland for a long time. Now they're in Vegas, and so aside from the Niners, well, I guess San Diego to LA, whatever. But like the Rams started in LA, went to St. Louis for, a cup of coffee and then came back to LA. I guess that's a little different, right? So like you asked me about Florida, right? But like also at the same time, like Tampa, Miami, and Jacksonville have always been there. Jacksonville, the newest of the three, but like they've established for a while now. But when I lived in Florida, and granted, I was in Orlando too, so I
Right.
was
So you were kind of
central.
like in the middle. I think if
Yeah,
you're in Tampa, you're going to see the diehard Bucks fans,
yeah.
right? And I think that if you're in Miami, you get more of the. But again, I mean, Florida,
Miami doesn't really
you got
care
so
though.
much else to do. Like you're not worried about like us going to a sporting event or
Right.
whatever. Like
Well, like
you know what
that's
I mean?
when we went to the Tigers Marlins game. People didn't get they were there because Venezuelans were there because it was Cabrera's last game in Miami. They
Like
didn't give
half
it.
the
They didn't.
country was there.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
yeah,
They were
yeah. It was it
they
was it
were
was it was Tigers and Venezuela. Like nobody was wearing Marlins gear. Like nobody cared. They're just like, oh, we have a stadium and there's a game and tickets are $10. Let's go. Like
right.
like people don't really care. And it actually, and matter of fact, it's almost kind of the same thing with the Rays. I felt like when we went to that game, there weren't like really diehard Rays fans. Like they were kind of just like, this is here, so we'll go.
I think that if you get into like the diehard baseball fans that are in the state of Florida, they're Braves fans, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of people that lived in Florida that were Braves fans because Georgia is so close, Florida Georgia
Well,
line.
and until the
But
expansions happened, that was the closest team. I think the
exactly,
Braves, I think the Braves have the biggest reach out of anybody, right? Because for the longest time, they were the Southeast team, right? So anybody who was in Florida, anybody who was in Georgia, anybody who was in Alabama, Mississippi, you even go up into the Carolinas in Tennessee and all of that. I mean that the Braves were that southeastern team. They kind of that was the thing. So I think that there's that component of it too. Like what other teams are around, and did the expansions happen, and that's the other part, right? Like so when an expansion happens, how it's not easy just to completely change your
Mhm.
allegiance. I think you get the younger fan,
Yeah.
but it takes a while for them to grow up into the passionate sports fan, right?
Right. And
Like
well,
think
so I
about
was
the
just
Houston Texans, right?
yeah, because Houston, what 2001?
So it was the Oilers, and
Right.
then they went to Tennessee. So if you're an Oiler fan, then now do I become a Tennessee fan? And then now there's not a team. Do I become a Cowboy fan? But I hated the Cowboys when they were here or whatever. So
Well, yeah,
so
everybody hates the
I'm a
Cowboys,
Tennessee
but
fan. And now the Texans come in and it's not the same. So it's like, do I become a diehard Texans fan?
right. So okay, so I was just looking it up. So because Morgan Wallen talks, Morgan Wallen is an open Braves fan, but he's a Tennessee guy, right? Because there's no baseball team in Tennessee. He's a big Braves guy. Another country artist that I listen to a lot, very good, Riley Green.
Yep.
He's from Alabama.
He's
He's
also
a
a very
brave.
good baseball
He's
player.
Yeah, yeah. We saw that when he did BP with the Orioles. But he's a Braves guy, coming from Alabama. So
Yeah.
so yeah, like you've got the regional side of it there where you kind of are just like, okay, what's closest, right? And you kind of
Yeah.
when you mentioned earlier like Oklahoma, right? Like Cowboys, Chiefs. Like I feel like a lot of Chiefs fans are regional fans, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of their fans are just regional people. And then but again, when you think like we were talking earlier, like the Midwest, like there are so many teams in the Midwest that but yet it's still regional somehow.
Okay, so let me ask you. Let me ask you. What is so my guys, the bellied up guys and the you betcha guys,
Mhm.
Charlie Barons and Miles and those dudes are awesome. They're funny. They talk about the Midwest and they talk about like, oh, Wisconsin's the actual mid, in which we know that it's not. But they talk all the time. They always have people that call in and stuff like that, and they ask, well, what do you consider to be the Midwest, right? So we grew up in Michigan and
Mhm.
we considered Michigan Midwest. They think Michigan's kind of a fringe. They don't even consider Ohio Midwest. They look at it
Really?
as Wisconsin, Illinois. Then you go into to Minnesota. Then you go into they talk about Iowa, Nebraska, even into Colorado and parts of the where the flatlands of Colorado and stuff like that are. They're more that area. But like your Uncle Timmy, down in Oklahoma, talked about how Oklahoma is technically considered kind of on the fringe of Midwest in that little area too. Like, so what is the Midwest? I mean, because we always think of it as like we thought of it as Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. That was kind of the Midwest for us.
Yeah.
But I'm finding out a lot of people think that Midwest is Iowa, Nebraska, the Dakotas, even into little edges of Montana and Colorado, and that they really don't consider um, Michigan and Ohio part of the Midwest.
Okay, so if Michigan and Ohio aren't part of the Midwest, then what are they?
Well, would they? I
Are they
mean,
do you classify
here's
them
the
as
other
their
part too,
own?
because it's Eastern time zone. That's the other part, right? Like,
Well,
so
yeah,
that
okay, so they're Eastern time zone, and then yeah, so like Illinois is Central. So what what actually like solidifies a state to a region? Because it's not time zones. Because you have states in the same region that are on different time zones.
well, but that's the argument though, because again, that's the argument that people have about excluding Michigan and Ohio from the
Okay,
Midwest because
but I
it's
don't
Eastern time zone.
but I don't understand then. Okay, because Indiana's right next to Illinois.
But Indiana's Central time zone, at least portions of it. There's a little
Now
sliver on,
Indianapolis isn't. Indianapolis is Eastern.
but if it's weird how Indiana, I don't Indiana's weird.
Well, Indiana is weird, but
Parts, yeah.
Indianapolis is a good time though.
Although Michigan does have a portion of Michigan that is in the Central time zone.
Where?
It's the tip of the nose of the UP.
Like the top
Up
of the
like Iron
UP?
Mountain and stuff like that, the part that hangs over Wisconsin.
The top of the UP?
No,
Oh yeah,
like
that
the
hangs over
part that like
Wisconsin.
the
Yeah,
nose
yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
rabbit, like that
Well,
like
because
hangs over the top of Wisconsin.
that's essentially Canada.
Is it Canada or is it Wisconsin? That's the other part too. Neither one of them are strong enough to want to take it in the first place.
Right.
So
That's
it's like,
we should get a geographist on here.
what
Is
is
that
a
a
geographist? Can you how do you do is what how do you become a geographist?
did I
What
is
are
it
the
supposed to be wait,
steps? What are the steps that you would take to become a geographist? Can you get a PhD as a geographist?
was I was I supposed to say geologist? Who's
No,
somebody
geologist has to do with like soils and stuff.
who's somebody that
Like a
studies like
like a
yeah,
geography
geography.
professor or something like
Yeah, that's
that.
why I said geographist because
I don't think geographist is a thing though.
but I was on the right track with like geography though.
Well, but you were right in the geography part of it, but I don't
Okay.
think look, we're gonna Google the geographist.
If it's a thing, you owe me something.
It's a geographer.
Geographer. See, I was kind of
Oh, but
close.
here's the thing. It asks a question. Oh, wait. Here's the thing. This is what we learned. Uh, and this is the content authority. I don't know what gives them the authority to call themselves the content authority, but this is the website that I pulled up.
Oh,
Um,
this is good stuff right
it
here.
says, what is the difference, the geographist versus geographer, decoding common word mix-ups. So it actually is a thing. So geography is a fascinating subject. Is there a difference between the two? Yes, there is a difference. Geographist is a less common term that can also be used to describe someone who specializes in geography, but is not as widely recognized or used as a geographer. Geographer studies physical features of the earth, landforms, climate, natural sciences. Geographist studies geography as an academic discipline. Physical and cultural features and how they interact with each other.
Mm.
So you might actually want the geographist. You might actually been you you fumbled into that one. You
I
didn't know. You
first of all,
didn't
I
know.
knew. No, I knew. I knew
No,
what I
you
was
didn't
doing this
know.
whole
You
time.
fumbled.
I didn't fumble in anything. I'm just this. I listen. I know what goes on.
Yeah, you fumbled into that one.
I just know what goes on. I'm all world.
Well, I actually think that I want to be a geographist now.
Go for it. Does UT have a geographist program?
No. They don't even know that that word exists. I can guarantee that.
So okay, open open the or I guess not open, but what type of careers, like what type of degree plans do you have at UT that would be in the realm of geography and this whole topic of like regions? What would be the closest? And I guess it not even just for UT, I guess just in general, like in college in general. If you're somebody who wants to like study geography and wants to like understand state boundaries and stuff like that and landmarks and stuff, what would be
What I'm
your
seeing here is basically you just need to get a degree in geography.
so okay, so there is just there's just it's just a basic geography degree. It's not like a specialized.
University of Toledo has a Bachelor of Arts in Geography.
Look at
Concentrations in human and environmental geography,
look at
urban and regional
UT.
planning.
Gotta love UT, man.
Mhm.
Go Rockets.
What can I do with a geography degree?
Everything.
Here's what University of Colorado Boulder says
Oh,
about what you can do with a geography degree. I got a spider coming down.
yeah, that's a good one.
So it says Geography allows you to step out of the classroom and get out into the world. You can't do it without a geography. You
Mhm.
can't do that. You can't make that transition. Also allows you to discover, study, and learn.
This is good stuff.
More importantly, geography allows you to make a difference.
You got,
So
yeah, I
we're
mean, make
really
it.
getting specific into
Mhm.
this.
Absolutely.
Geography will
Just making a
equip you with the
difference.
skills you need to map your future and career path.
Mhm.
My worldview expanded with every geography class I completed. This is what the guy said. Well,
Is this
this is
real? Are these
unbelievable.
real testimonies, or is this like
This is this
this is
is
like when you're like setting up a
this is
WordPress account?
Amy Hannigan, the BA in geography.
She doesn't exist. She's not a real person. This is like a WordPress website where they just like make up reviews.
I was hired to work at MapQuest, the very first mapping and driving directions website, merging my
What?
love of geography and desire to bring mapping and directions to the masses.
So here's the next question. What are we looking
Amy,
like? What's the salary like? What are we looking at a year for these people?
oh, 24,000.
You think that's less than a server bartender?
I don't know. Oh, here we go. Job possibilities. Here we go. Here we go. Air water quality control manager. A cartographer. You could be a cartographer,
What does a cartographer?
climatologist,
What does a cartographer do?
a cartographer. We're gonna look that one up too. We're gonna see what a cartographer does. This is this is the educational aspect of what you get from the bar banter. So a
Yeah.
cartographer is a person who draws and produces maps.
Okay.
You
I
can be an
have.
entrepreneur. That's specific.
You have the world map.
I do have the world map.
I thought Rory was holding on to the world map.
No,
But you've
no,
got
I
the world.
haven't.
You've
But
got the
there's a
world
lot. You could
map.
be a soil scientist. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. It means so many. You could park ranger.
So you're saying that a
Give a hoot,
cartographer.
don't pollute.
I just messed up Rory. Rory, I can't get Rory. You know what? Here's
Now
what
you
we
got to
do.
put him on.
Yeah, now we just. All right.
So that's
Since I've got Rory on, let's
okay.
transition here. What
Yeah,
I want to come out and say we couldn't have been any more wrong about the Packers.
yeah, it's unbelievable. What happened there, right? So like the Brownies, shocked the world, get that win, and then the cow
They did they
the 40
Sunday
40
night.
tie
Yeah,
Sunday night
tie.
with the Cowboys. It was they in the game against the Browns, they couldn't score any points. In the game against the Cowboys, they couldn't stop anybody. And then when they played the Lions in week one, they looked like they could score at will and that they wouldn't give up any points.
But then
And now the
the
Lions are
Lions,
rolling.
yeah,
Now the
the
Lions are
Lions after
rolling.
that game just like to score 187 points a game. So it's like,
You know,
so no, I think it truly was just a sense. It was just week one, just the shenanigans of week one.
it was. It was all. It was like that's why you overreact a little bit. You
Yeah.
know,
Now, well, because
it's
we get them again here on Thanksgiving. Obviously we've got a few games. We kind of have to run the gauntlet before that.
yeah.
We got first of all at Cincinnati, which I guess when that schedule came out, it looked tougher than it was. But then,
Cincinnati. I mean, they're 2-1, but um, those two games were with Burrow.
yeah,
Now they're down 14-3 against the Broncos, and the Broncos are 1-2.
the Broncos aren't half
S
bad.
Soon to be 2-2, but I think the Broncos are better than the 1-2 record that they are. And then we thought that the Ravens were, that was
Yeah,
big, and then they go to Kansas City, and then
they,
it's like, what's up,
they get
dudes? Because
stomped
Kansas
out.
City was on the verge of going 0-3.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, Kansas City looked rough, and then so we go into Baltimore, handle business there, and then they get smoked by so now we go to Cincinnati, then we go to Kansas City, and then we got Tampa at home. I mean, that's a tough little stretch there, regardless of how you feel about Cincinnati right now. I still think on paper it's a tough, but so okay, so now so we got that. So now okay, back to the original question. Thanksgiving. How does Thanksgiving? Obviously, a lot can happen, but how does Thanksgiving look against Green Bay in a rematch weeks after week one, where we got quite literally embarrassed?
Um, well, here's the part. Like it's we apparently we don't win on Thanksgiving anymore.
Well, because of your moon phases.
But have you seen the moon phases in the last 2 weeks have been in the Lions' favor?
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of how it's been. But I will say, so we don't win on Thanksgiving anymore. And I don't know when that happened, that transition. I don't know, 10 years ago, probably more than that. Probably when we switched over to Ford Field. We don't win on Thanksgiving at Ford Field. We just don't. Um, so there's that. I also think that the Packers, the Packers kind of do this every year though, right? They kind of like implode a little bit. They look horrible, and then they go on this run. They like right the ship, and then they
Yeah.
go on this run. Like last year, nobody was expecting all of a sudden they started just winning games at the end of the season. They were
Mhm.
one of the better teams. So I think that that Thanksgiving game is in the later half of the season. So I think that's tough too, right? Like because that's when the Packers start being the Packers.
Yeah.
Also, I think Micah Parsons is just going to get better and better with that team. He was a beast out there. I mean, it's you can't
Wait,
block the guy.
when? Are you saying against us?
No,
Okay.
against the Cowboys.
I was gonna say he didn't do anything against us.
He
He
was
didn't do
all
anything against us.
look,
He
they
chased down
Dallas.
Jared Goff in the
Well,
backfield.
and that was the thing too. Like he had no training camp, he had no nothing, whatever. First snaps with the team or whatever, and he chased down Jared Goff, which I think I could do. But now he's getting better and better and better, right? And he was disrupting. Now the Cowboys scored 40 points, right? So it's like how disruptive was he? But it felt like he was involved in every single play. And I think he's just going to get better. So that defense is going to get better with him. So that's going to be a problem. So I still stick to the initial take that I think Green Bay is going to be a problem. I think that what happened the last couple weeks is an anomaly. I think it's what they do. They have these little patches of badness, I guess, for lack of a better word. I mean, if you can say geographist, I can say badness. So so I think that Green Bay is going to be a problem as time goes on. I don't think Minnesota is going to recover,
Yeah,
and the Bears are probably going to be a 500 team. They're 500 now. They're probably going to be a 500 team.
yeah, but the Bears also.
So
Okay, so who are the Bears wins against? Who are the Bears wins against? The Raiders and who else did they beat?
so they
They
beat
beat
the Raiders and they beat the
or was that their only? No, that wasn't their first win
no,
yesterday.
that's they won 2 games. Who did they beat last week for their first win?
Oh, the Cowboys. Yeah, so they smoked the
Oh, they
Cowboys.
destroyed the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, and then they beat the
Yeah,
Raiders, which whatever. I mean,
yeah.
the Cowboys are the Cowboys, right? It's so weird though, because I want to sit here and be like the Cowboys, but so it's like okay, so then are we going to sit here and say that both the Cowboys and the Packers are both ass? Because I don't think you can say that.
No,
Maybe about the Cowboys, but I don't think you can say that about Green Bay. I think that Green Bay is just this is what they do, like you mentioned. They're going to kick it into second gear, around Thanksgiving time, but. And
right.
then your favorites. Now the one team I will say that is still doing what we expected was Buffalo. Buffalo's still playing as we expect them to, um,
And Philly.
and Philly, of course. But you know, I don't know. Last year was we obviously the Lions were a favorite last year, and we talked a lot about Washington after that game, and then look at Washington this year. And I'm going to tell you, Jaden Daniels has not looked great. He is not.
Sophomore slump big time with him, and then the injury, and then it's not a good look when you're injured. And did you see the video of him dancing on the sidelines?
Yeah, I mean,
That's not a good look.
yeah.
You're injured. Like you're out of the game because of a leg injury,
and you're
and
dancing.
you're dancing, like not just dancing, not just like me dancing, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean dancing,
Yeah.
like full on, like I mean that's not a good look.
No.
That's
No.
I still am very high on the guy. I still think that I still think that he's going to be a good quarterback, but I feel like the sophomore slump kind of the injury kind of messed with him. A little bit of inflated. We talked about how he just stayed even keeled. Maybe he did get a little inflated after the end of last season and stuff like that. I don't know, but yeah, that's not a good look on
It's
that
not a good
front.
look. Nope. No. But I mean, what is it, week 4 now?
Yeah,
Uh, I-
but
thoughts after week
that
4?
division still runs through Philly. I
Yeah.
mean,
Thoughts after week 4? I think your NFC contenders are Detroit, Philly, and I Tampa maybe.
I do like Tampa because I look. I'm a big Baker guy. I like
Yeah.
Baker.
Yeah.
Um,
Aside from him
and
planting the flag at the shoe,
you slow down, slow down.
what?
That's that can neither be confirmed nor denied whether or not that was planted in the middle of Ohio State's campus. But um,
It was
so
he tried to plant the flag on a on a turf field. Like, did he think it
yeah,
was gonna stick?
there's not a whole lot of space for it to go, but that incident aside, I'm a big Baker guy. I think
Yeah.
that as far as a football player goes, as far as a locker room guy goes, as far as all of that stuff, I think that he's, the Browns. I mean, what are we doing? Like you didn't like. How do you move on from that guy and then end up with what you're doing?
Have you
Um,
have you seen the picture of it's like outside of a game? I think it was a Tampa game, and it's just like 5 dudes, and it's like one dude's got a Baker Browns jersey on, then there's a dude in front of him with a Baker Panthers jersey on, and the dude next to him's got a Baker Rams jersey on, and then the dude in front of him's got a Baker Bucks jersey on. It's like the greatest picture ever. Like these dudes are walking
that
in
is good.
sync. Which
That
when
is good.
again you look at a guy like Baker, and you think about all the teams he's been on, like I think he's way too good of a player to have been bounced around like that. But I think at the same time, him bouncing around like that made him who he is on Tampa.
True, because he's one of those guys like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
You're going to give up on me, then I'm going to prove you
yeah,
wrong, right?
yeah.
Like, we talked about that last time with like Tom Brady. Like he
Mhm.
said that he would have never been who he was in the NFL had he not had to fight day in, day
Yeah,
out for playing time when he was at Michigan because it just wasn't handed to him. Like I mean, you kept bringing in guys and he had to compete every single year for playing
yeah.
time and stuff like
And
that. And
they
he said
and Michigan fan hated him too, so
well, that was when they brought in the Drew Henson, and he was supposed to be the second coming, and so they wanted Henson to play, and they wanted nothing to do with Tom Brady.
hmm
And in his own right, he'll come out and even admit it. He wasn't the quarterback that he was in
yeah.
the NFL when he was at Michigan. He had a lot to learn, a lot to figure out. But but again, I think that with to go back to Baker, that's kind of like the thing, right? Like, listen, I'm a competitor, so please throw shade on me. Tell me I'm not good because that's just gonna fuel me.
Yeah, and I love Baker too. Like, what was it last week or the week before against the Texans when CJ Gardner Johnson like had that dirty hit on him, and Baker just jumped right up and got in his face. That's what I love about Baker. Like he's so like he's gritty. He
Oh,
like
yes.
I feel like he would be a great fit on the Lions, but we've got the GOAT Jared Goff right now. But yeah, so I think NFC. I go Lions, Eagles, and then probably the Bucks. Um, maybe Green Bay. But then you get the Rams though, and it's like they blew the game against Philly, but Philly's up there. And then okay, so then I go to the AFC, obviously Buffalo. Baltimore looks rough right now, but I feel like they'll turn it around. I think Pittsburgh's surprising us a little bit. I didn't think Aaron Rodgers was going to do as well as he is at 187 years old. But again, is Aaron Rodgers doing well, or is it just Pittsburgh being Pittsburgh? you know,
that
and then,
they're
you
just
know,
slot them
it's
in for one of the playoff spots, and
yeah.
then but I think that that's another thing, the conversation to be had though too about Pittsburgh, right? Like, does Tomlin have to win a playoff game this year?
I feel like he has to, right? Because it's been how many years where their first round
It,
exits,
one and dones, and it's no good.
especially one of Roethlisberger's last year when they started the season 11-0 and then ended up finishing with what one or two losses and then lost at home to like a 6 seed Cleveland in the first round. Like, so yeah, I think Tomlin's you got to win a game. Nobody's saying he's got to go out and get a ring, right? But you can't.
Which is kind of crazy, right? Because I think he's one of, if not the best coach in the game right now.
Yeah, yeah, I
Beside
agree.
outside of Dan Campbell, um, but yeah, I mean that's crazy to say, but I mean again, sometimes that happens. He's been there so long and everything else, and you're just like, okay, well, we're expected to make the playoffs. We do make the playoffs, and then it's kind of like, okay, let's give me something a little bit more here. Like, do you need just a new voice in
It's
the locker room, or what is it?
it's a tough situation because yeah, like you said, he is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the game right now. And it's just like it's Pittsburgh's been that team that is just like you can always pencil them in, like you said, for the playoffs. But it's their first round exits, and it's like you think about Pittsburgh, such a historic team, historic franchise, all those Super Bowls. Like when you think the Steelers, you think contender, but the last couple of years have been kind of rough. And of course, Aaron Rodgers. Say what you will about him. You know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. And a lot of people agree with me on that standpoint of it. But when I'm looking at teams at the AFC just going through Week 4, Pittsburgh's got a better record than the Chiefs and the Ravens right now. The
I
only
will
team
say,
that's got a
I will
better
say, I'm
record
not. Look, here's the
is
thing.
Buffalo.
I will say, I don't think. I mean, as bad as the Chiefs kind of stumbled out of the gate, and as bad as they got blown out in the Super Bowl, and as bad as they were kind of like, they're not really the Chiefs at the end of last year and stuff like that. And I feel like it's kind of like they're kind of on the downswing of their little dynasty. But I can't count them out until they're out,
Yeah, of course.
right? Like so because
So
even Mahomes does what Mahomes does, right?
mhm.
Like it's just kind of one of those things. He finds a way, right?
so I want to
So they're gonna be there in the mix.
Yeah. And as you're mentioning that, I want to ask you real quick before we move on. We've talked in the past, about windows, right? And how the Lions window could possibly be closing. Now we look back at the Patriots with Brady and how that dynasty ended. And what do you think the window is for Kansas City as far as the dynasty coming to an end and them ending up like New England? Like, when do you think the time frame is to where the Chiefs are kind of just like there and they're
So
not a powerhouse anymore? And do you think that like teams like Philly are going to end up taking over for the next couple of years?
yeah, I mean, I think Philly's primed and right there, ready to do that. I think Kansas City. So here's the thing about Kansas City, right? They're going to have to find a Mahomes like quarterback to replace him once now, and we're not talking about him being old or anything like that, but Andy Reid in that type of offense lives off of the fact that Mahomes does what Mahomes does,
Mhm.
right? Like Andy Reid's offense, the way that it is not set up for Jared Goff to go out there and win 13, 14 games,
Right.
right? Like so that's the big thing. So and Andy Reid, I mean, how many years does Andy Reid have left?
That's the other question. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now you get the whole culture change when you bring in another coach, and then if Mahomes leaves, well, how are you going to replace? And I think that that's going to be kind of when they're going to slowly move down and down and down as they get older, and it's just harder to compete and everything else, and all those things. And but I think that once one of those two pieces leaves, kind of like what happened with the Patriots, right? Once Tom Brady left and it wasn't Brady and Belichick anymore, and then it was like boom, then it was exit stage left, right? So But I think that that's kind of the thing. But I will say this: we thought that the Lions' window was a lot smaller than it actually is. I think.
You think there's still a lot more time?
Well, because here's the deal. I think Goff is a guy who's more easily replaceable than Mahomes is as the type of quarterback. Like I think that if you get a lot of guys like Goff, like he's been playing well, he's great in the system and everything else, and he makes the throws and all that other kind of stuff like that. But what have we said from day one? He doesn't win you games. He just doesn't lose you games.
Yeah.
So you can replace a Goff where Mahomes wins you games.
Is Goff a Carson Palmer, Andy Dalton, type of guy?
I even go to it this way too, because like so you look at Carson Palmer, you look at Andy Dalton, you look at those guys. They were those game manager type quarterbacks or whatever. Carson Palmer probably a little bit more better or whatever. But I look at Jared Goff more along the lines of the Brad Johnson that won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, and more along the lines of Joe Flacco that won a Super Bowl with Baltimore.
Yeah.
He's that type of a quarterback. He can win a Super Bowl being who those guys are because that's who he is, right? Like they just did what they had to do to not screw it up,
Yeah.
basically. And that's basically Goff. Just here's the play, run the play, do it right, and let's move on. And
He's a
that's
very
perfect.
textbook guy. Very
Right.
textbook, very, fundamental.
Exactly. Like throw the ball here and boom, it's there. Right. Like, that kind of a thing. If you had to replace a guy like Mahomes, who is improv,
Well, and you're okay, so you're mentioning
it's a
Kansas
little
City
bit
Mahomes.
different, right?
He took off after Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith is another Goff-esque type guy.
And then that's
And look
when
what but look what Kansas City was doing with Smith, which is why when
but they weren't
oh,
at that hump though. That was the
exactly
thing.
that
Like Andy
exactly.
Reid, Andy Reid, like you know what I mean? Like they Andy Reid needs that like that type of offense. Like think about like so Andy Reid comes from that type of offense from way back in the day, from before
Mhm.
you were born, the Bill Walsh era and all that kind of stuff. So you look at the Bill Walsh teams and stuff like that. They had the Steve Youngs, right? And then you have the coaches that went in and they had the John Elways and the Brett Favres and all of those same kind of guys,
Mhm.
right? Like they were those kind of crazy gunslinger make it, but their offenses were for that, right? So I think that that's where Kansas City's window is. Once one of those guys leaves, it's going to be hard to replace either one of those. It's going to be a big culture shift, and then they're going to see what happened with the Patriots. Now, the Lions, the reason why I say the Lions window is not as small as we thought it was. Look what Dan Campbell has done with now it's an early sample size, right? But look what he's done losing the coordinators that he's lost.
Mhm.
You bring in John Morton, everybody's like, who's John Morton? Whatever. He was a quarterback's coach he had a sip of coffee with the quarterbacks, and that was kind of like his thing. Our offense is just as exciting, if not more exciting, than it was with Brad Johnson,
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. And I do that every single
I
time.
know you
But
do it every time.
but and look at the defense. You lose Aaron Glenn, but now Kelvin Pritchard comes in
Mhm.
or Kelvin Shepard.
What's
I
going on
you,
with you?
I can't listen when people have like similar names. I can't do it. It's kind of like the dyslexia going on. But so yeah, so now he's coming in and now he's really finding his own.
Yeah.
If that's going to be the case, if Dan Campbell as the CEO of the team
Mhm.
is going to be able to bring in people that are going to continue the mission, then we're fine. And I
Yeah.
think that window stays open for a long time. And I think people are starting to realize that, okay, listen, this is not just some tobacco spitting meathead tight end.
Mhm.
This is a
Drinking
guy who
these
knows
big ass
football
coffees.
and knows the game and
Yeah.
understands it, right? Like
Yeah. And
look
you
at he learned under Sean Payton,
yeah,
I mean, he
he did.
learned, so he knows the game. and he knows how
He
to run a
does.
team, and
He
it's
does.
showing. So
And you mentioned the coordinators, like week one against Green Bay, we're like, oh, we were missing Ben Johnson, and then on defense, we're like, oh man, we're missing Aaron Glenn, and then you know the game against the Bears happened, and then the game against Baltimore, and then this game against the Browns, and we've seen, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, like it's week one, they'll get into their own, like we've seen now, and as you mentioned earlier, Morton, like the offense is still exciting, and Calvin Shepard, like he's showing that like this defense. We're stepping up like that week one. And again, we talked about it like, oh, the week one blues, or it was just week one, whatever. But genuinely, like that week one was just them getting their footing, and I think that week one woke everybody up within the organization. And we've seen now, like you mentioned, the offense and defense is just as good, if not better, with these two guys. And I think that the coordinators that we have right now in Morton and Shepard, I genuinely do think that we didn't gain or lose anything really. I think if anything we gained, to be honest with you. I think that we're kind of seeing right now that Johnson and Glenn have easily been replaced, and that we're still the same Lions, and we're still ready to go, and we're still all about grit. So, yeah, I still got them at the top of my NFC, a little bit biased, but um, that's just where
I
I'm at.
mean,
I think we all still want to see
it's
a
still
Lions Bills
Philly.
Super Bowl.
I think it's still Philly until we dethrone Philly. It's still
Mhm.
Philly, but yeah, I mean, but then
Well, we
it's
we
one
play
two,
Philly. We get to play
right?
Philly in a couple weeks,
I
and I
think
think
week one is now.
everybody still wants a Lions Bills Super Bowl. So,
Yeah, everyone does. I mean, it would just be amazing. But I think that week one has kind of turned into the third preseason game.
mm,
Like so hey, when there was four preseason games, it was kind of always your starters played the most in that third preseason game to kind of get game speed and stuff like
yeah,
that and get them out of the practice mode and stuff like
yep,
that or whatever. So they would play of the first half or three quarters, your starters, and then so that was always the third preseason game. I feel like, and they would make their mistakes and stuff like that there, and then they would be ready for the season.
yeah,
I think because now the starters aren't playing in the preseason at all, I think week one is kind of replaced what that third
hmm
preseason game is, right? Like you're figuring it
yeah.
out in week one. And I think we were figuring it out on the road at Lambeau, a division rival.
Especially, yeah, because when was the last time we started the season in Lambeau? I mean, that
Yeah.
game, us going to Lambeau, has, at least for NFC North and for Lions fans, for as long as I've been alive and as long as I can remember, that's been one of the toughest games, if not the toughest game on our schedule for as long as I can remember. And I don't know the last time we started a season with that game. So
Which
that was
you'd
that
think
was
that that's what you want to do because then you don't
you
have
would
to deal with the
think,
weather,
but
right?
yeah, you
But
would think, but then you think about it, like imagine if Michigan Ohio State played week one. It's kind of a similar concept, right?
yeah,
Like imagine if these like Alabama Auburn played week one. You know what I mean? Like imagine that. That's
Well,
when it kind of
we talked about it though.
we
We
did. We
we
touched
talked
on it a
about
little
that a
bit.
few weeks ago, and we talked about how maybe taking those games, those end of the season games, maybe putting them because think about like okay, so that's what Notre Dame and USC does right every other
Yeah.
year. They play in the middle of the season, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that if you take those rivalry games put them in the middle of the season because especially now with the way that everything is because in all reality what you could end up with Ohio State Michigan playing the last week of the season then them playing for
Big
the
Ten
Big Ten
championship.
championship then them playing in the playoffs and you could in 4 weeks you could have three games with the same
Yeah.
two teams which is you
It's
don't want
possible.
right
You don't
it,
want
it
it,
it,
but
you
it
know
is possible right now. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that those games need to be moved. I think that, like Michigan plays, Michigan State play that third week in October. I think that's a perfect spot
Yeah.
for the Ohio State game and then move the Michigan State game into
Well, but
to
then what
to the
happens when Michigan State gets good again?
then you change it back. No,
Well,
just
yeah,
kidding.
but
I
see,
don't know.
that's a lie.
Um,
Anyway, all right.
okay,
So you had some questions you wanted to
well,
ask
we
me.
talked. So we talked about the Rodgers, and we talked about Pittsburgh and Tomlin and all
Mhm.
that stuff. They played over in
Ireland.
Ireland,
Yep.
which Ireland. that's a bucket list of ours that we want to, have a Guinness. It's at Sean's Pub, oldest bar in the world. All that other kind of stuff like that. We're talking about it, but right now, speaking of over in the Europes, there's the Oktoberfest
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
going on right now. And if you see some of these things, like I mean, I'm addicted to watching these clips on the TikToks
Mhm.
of people going over there and all this other stuff, and in the dirndls, what I don't know how the women's, and then the lederhosen and stuff like that, and you get all dressed up and you're in there and you got the big, the liters of beer, and it's just an all this craziness, and singing, dancing, the whole deal. um is that like the best, like what other event? I mean, that's like it's from mid-September to the first weekend of October, so it's a 3-week deal that goes on. And is that the best beer festival? Like, does a St. Patrick's Day in Ireland compare to the Oktoberfest? What's the best beer experience that you could have in the world? And is that it?
Yeah, I would probably say so that I would say Oktoberfest, right? And again, this comes from a standpoint of what I've experienced, right? So, of course, there are some great St. Patrick's Days in the US, right? You talk about Chicago, the Green River, St. Patrick's Day is always
Yeah.
fantastic in Chicago,
Some of
right?
the
And then,
sneaky little places that
yeah,
like Savannah
yeah,
is a big
yeah.
one.
There are some cities within the states that do a great job of St. Patrick's Day. Even Detroit, Detroit has some fun St. Patrick's Day
Boston,
festivities.
obviously.
Boston, yeah, New York, things like that. But no, I think it's different in a sense because it comes down to culture, right? Like the Oktoberfest, like again, but I guess okay, so like there are people that save up and dedicate a vacation to Germany for Oktoberfest. But then again, there are also foreigners that come to the States and go to Chicago for St. Patrick's Day because they're like, they live in Germany and they're like, we want to see the Green River. And, but again, like you mentioned on our bucket list, we definitely want to go check it out. But I think just uh, if we're talking personal experience, it's tough for me to say, I've done St. Patrick's Day in Orlando. I've done St. Patrick's Day in Detroit. You've done St. Patrick's Day in Chicago. I haven't since I've been 21. Um, there are some other cities in the States that are pretty known for having some fun St. Patrick's Day that we haven't checked out yet. But I think if we're just talking like general knowledge, Oktoberfest has to be like the best beer like day, right? Like it has to be like I
Well,
saw
it's 3 weeks long too, which
and
is the other part of it
that's
too.
that's
So
the other thing too. So like I saw Drake, like everybody knows Drake, the greatest
yeah,
rapper of all time. He
well,
was he was in Germany for Oktoberfest and he like went all out. Like he was
yeah.
dressed
I
appropriately.
mean,
Like he
he
had it,
kind of rhinestoned up his lederhosen, but
which
I
is
mean, it's
fine because
Drake.
he's
It's
Drake.
Drake.
He can do whatever he wants. When you are the greatest musician that
Yeah.
ever lived, you can do whatever you want. So, but yeah, so you got people like that doing that, and I don't really see too many public figures doing things like that for like a day in the States. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I would say, and again, this is just based on what I see in the public eye, but I would say Oktoberfest is probably the best like beer festival, best thing. I would say we have to obviously do it for ourselves. But I would say in the States we can try and compete with St. Patrick's Day in some of these big cities for sure. Um, but again, I guess do you count like sporting events? Like do you count like Super Bowl weekend? Like does a
No,
city
no. I was just talking about like a world, like think about like so St. Patrick's Day. You think St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, right? Like so,
of course.
would that be But then again, that's one day as opposed to the three. I mean, I don't, and I'm sure like other places have their festivals and things like I know Italy has their festivals and stuff like that that they have some of those the festivals in New York and in Boston and stuff like that are pretty, there's Polish festivals that are the same. St. Anthony, so you get all of these different kinds of festivals, St. Patrick's, St. Anthony, all the different saint festivals. So you get all these different things. I just think that the German Oktoberfest and the other part of it too is like, okay, so St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, it's something that we want to experience.
Mhm.
St. Patrick's Day in Boston, St. Patrick's Day in Chicago, like we talked about, or whatever. And then these other festivals that happen in Italy and things like that, then they happen in New York where these other, Italian communities and stuff like that or whatever. You get the same kind of feel almost, but I think that, there's Oktoberfest parties all over the states that are not even close.
Yeah, no, because we try and do an Oktoberfest
Because
type
nobody
deal.
shows up in the
Exactly.
lederhosen. Nobody
Yep.
shows up. Like, I mean, it's you get a plastic cup of beer and
Yep.
it's like, yeah, it's Oktoberfest.
Well, and
We're
that's
drinking,
the
and
other
then you're
part of
drinking
it.
IPAs and stuff like that.
But that's
Whereas,
the thing. You get people that
like,
show up for like an Oktoberfest in the States and are drinking Mick Ultras and Miller Lights, and it's like that's not we're not on the
there's
same
only six
wavelength.
beers that are allowed at the Oktoberfest in Germany, and
Do
they're
can,
Munich-based beers,
can you
and
name
that's
all
the
six of
part of
them?
it too. That's like awesome.
Can you name all six of them?
I can't name all six of them. I can name a couple of them. So the Lowenbrau and the Hofbrauhaus. But I know those. There's six.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, and they're all German beers, right? And they're brewed in Munich. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing. I think it's the one that can't be mimicked at all
Mm.
anywhere else. So I think it's just the best festival that there is.
I
It's
think so
definitely
too.
definitely the top of the bucket list of beer drinking
Absolutely.
days, festivals, whatever that I would want to be a part of.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but
Yeah, we definitely at some point down the line here, we'll make it happen at some point for sure.
so so the last thing I want to talk to you about,
Mhm.
just real quick, I just want to talk to you about a little bit about
Yeah.
bathroom
Let
etiquette. Bathroom bathroom etiquette at a bar. Um, so there's certain rules and certain things. Like, one, how much conversation do you have at
Mhm.
in a bathroom?
Mhm.
I mean, is it just shut up and get done and get out of there, or
Yep.
is it, can you, if you're waiting for a urinal, can you have a little bit of, you know, back and forth or whatever? If you're at the urinal, do you ever have the conversation or no? Um, obviously there's the whole spacing rule and all
Of
that other kind of
course.
stuff.
Yeah.
Also, you know, what's the etiquette as far as stand up, sit down, at bars?
Mhm.
Do you even give the sit down a chance? Because we talked about when it's a one man, the sit down is not a thing unless you got, like, because I mean, I almost destroyed a bathroom because of walking in after a sit down in a one man after the thing. But also at the same time too, it's like the space and all that stuff. I tell you one story of, so way back in the day at the Oak Cafe, once I was one younger man, going there quite a bit and everything else, and so they would have the big 22-ounce things or whatever. And here's the other question: do you bring your beer into the bathroom?
That's
But
another
so they
question.
had kind of a one-man bathroom. There was actually the trough that had the ice in it, and then there was a toilet, but it was like, if you two people are standing in there, then you're like almost back to back touching each other or whatever. They also had a little shelf with a little TV in there, so I would go in there with my beer and I would set it on the shelf, over the thing, and then I would go to the bathroom, whatever, wash, and then grab my beer and go out. Now, I don't know if that's a breach of etiquette to bring a beer into the bathroom or not, but whatever, that's what happened. Well, one time I'm in there and I'm in the trough and everything else, and I've got my beer on there, and so and it's above where the toilet is.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting there, and so that, like, I would have to reach like this, but the toilet's like here. So another guy comes in, and starts using the toilet. And I'm like, first of all, like, well, this is breach of etiquette in here. We know this is a one man. Like, what are we doing? Okay. Second of all, so then now I'm done and my beer, and I've got to try to reach around him while he's going to grab my beer. And he's going, and I'm like trying to like reach to grab my beer. And he's like, oh, here, and grabs my beer, not like this, but like this
Yeah.
to like hand it to me. And I immediately went right back up to the bar and I was like, hey, listen, I got penis hand on
Yeah,
my
you
beer.
can't. Yeah.
Like I like you know, and I need a new beer because this has got penis hand all over
Hmm.
it.
You don't want any
So
part of it.
so what's the etiquette number one? So let me ask you, etiquette of bringing beer into the bathroom. Also, at what point do you say it there's enough spaces to go, but I'm going to stand outside because it would be uncomfortably crowded even using all the spaces. You know what I mean? So what's your take on it?
Yeah. I would say first for the bring your beer in. I would say if you're drinking out of a can or a bottle, you bring it in. If you're doing can or bottle, bring it in. Usually you can set it on the urinal, or most bars have like a ledge above the urinal that you can do. If you're doing a draft beer, I probably wouldn't bring it in. That's kind of like hopefully you're with a group of people and you can leave it at the table or leave it with your buddies or whatever. And then when it comes to space, I would say that if you kind of peek in and you see both stalls are taken or all the stalls are taken and all the urinals are taken, I would just kind of wait there in the doorway,
But what
and
if
wait for
if
somebody to
but what
walk
if one of
out.
them's open? But what if one of them's open, but it would be cramped if you were to take that spot? Do you etiquetely give space and leave one spot open, even though there might be a line behind you?
It depends how bad you gotta pee, because when you break the seal, it can get bad, right? I think that if it's a situation where you're gonna go in there, you're gonna put your head down, you're gonna be in and out, sure. But if you're one of those guys that's gonna sit there and then this goes back to the other conversation, like talking, like when is it okay to talk and not? So like I'll give an example, and I'm gonna set you up for a story too to close this out. But this past weekend, I was at the old Dunleavy's in Allen Park, and there was a group of people there for their buddy's 21st birthday. And so I go into the bathroom, I got to urinate, I got to urine, and I got my Ohio State jersey on, by the way. And I'm at the stall, and or I'm at the urinal, and I kind of walk in like right behind the guy, and he makes a beeline for the stall. And then he kind of slams the door shut, and then I'm just like, oh, whatever. He's Some bad news is probably about to happen. I'm gonna pee and get out of here. So I go to the urinal and I start peeing. Next thing I know, I start hearing dry heaving, and I'm like, oh, this is bad time. Like, dudes, he's having a bad time. And while I'm thinking that, I feel a tap on my back, and so I turn around, and the dude's standing there, and he's like, "That's my buddy in the stall. It's his 21st, and he's puking." And then he like grabs his phone and like sticks it under the stall and like starts recording. And he's like, So there's two fouls on the play. Number one, I'm peeing with my penis in my hand, and he's tapping my back to talk to me.
No
Number
touching.
two, his buddy is fighting for his life in the stall, and he's under there recording. Like, so there's two fouls on the play when it comes to that. So that's when I think talking's not okay. If you're peeing
No
next to
touching,
somebody and
no
it's
phones.
right. So if you're peeing next to somebody and it's just a quick little da 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 da, and then you're out, whatever. So that story and that interaction that leads me to those are my answers, but that also leads me to let's talk about our guy Todd. Let's talk about our guy Todd at the Silver Dome.
So we're at the Silverdome Lions games. And anybody who's ever been to the Silverdome bathroom knows that it's just a disaster, right? And it's crowded and the lines and everything else. And so you're in there for a while, right? And people are pretty liquored up or whatever. And so there's, while you're waiting, there's, people start chants, cheering for the game, whatever, let's go Lions or whatever. In that era, Lions suck. um, whatever, sell the team. But so we're in there, right? And there was a kid, a little kid that was standing next in line to the urinal. And his dad must have been the one that was at the urinal. So the kid like went right up. But the poor kid was at the height to where his face was, I mean, it was at splash level, right? And, so
Splash level.
I just happened to say, I turned to Todd, who's next to me in the line, and I say, I mean, that I go, that poor kid's, he's at splash level. That's bad. That's bad news for him, poor kid. So Todd laughs and he like grabs the kid on the shoulders, and he's like, hey, you got to back up, buddy. And then everybody's kind of like, oh, well, all right, whatever. So right, so I'm like, Todd, you can't, like, don't, number one, no, what did he say? No touching,
No
no
touching.
phones,
Yeah.
whatever. But I'm like, you can't touch kids. Like, you could just, your hands off, right? Like, that was the thing, whatever. And so he's like, oh yeah, 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 whatever. So then we go and, watching the game, we go back to the bathroom, right? And we walk into the bathroom, and we're crowded in there or whatever. And so Todd announces to everybody, and he's like, I promise I'm not touching any kids this time. And like everybody in the place turns around and looks up, like, dude, like, phrasing. Like, this
Yeah.
is like, so now everybody's like, what? Like, this is not okay. But it was, yeah, that's but yes, so no touching,
Yes.
absolutely no
No
touching of the
touching.
kids ever. But you
Yes.
you you it's, and then the conversation piece of it, right? Like, be aware of what's being
Yeah.
said in the bathroom. If there is anything that's going to be going on. But yeah, that's breach of etiquette number one, on all fronts. But yeah, I think that there's some of the gray areas in there. So, but I do like your point too. And I had party fouls. I probably breached some etiquette with bringing in the draft beers,
Yeah.
that I have in the past, but no more. Um, but yeah, the bringing in the beers one that, okay, what do we do? Also, the spacing part of it. When is it okay to go full capacity? When do you kind of hang back?
Hmm.
And when does the conversation stop
Yeah.
in the bathroom? Also, if you do have a buddy who's fighting for his life in the stall, don't add to it by being a douche
Right.
and trying to get your phone in there and making it even harder for the
You
guy.
know,
But
yeah, and that's kind of my biggest fear is when you're in a stall, that's almost like you're expecting like absolute privacy, right?
yeah, you oh
Public
yeah,
bathrooms are
listen.
okay, so public bathrooms are scary enough as it is.
Yeah.
And when you're in a stall, you're hoping that even though you're in a public bathroom, that stall is going to give you that privacy that you wish you had at home.
Because
So when you
your
get that,
guy's in a bad space to begin
right,
with,
right,
because
right,
because when you're in that situation, you're hugging,
yeah,
right? And you don't
hugging,
want to hug a public toilet. You
never,
barely want to hug your own toilet at home,
yep, yeah,
right? So you're forced to hug a public toilet.
yeah,
And then you got, your guy, like trying to get
yeah.
to get
Like he's
TikTok,
like
the likes
he's
on the
like
TikToks and
leaning.
the Instagrams.
Dude was like leaning, like dude was like to like lay on the floor and like
See, that's another
get
bad
under
thing
the
too. Like, you
stall.
don't
Yeah,
want
you
it,
can't.
like,
You want any part of that. And
yeah,
in
you don't
fact,
want any part of the
we talk
floor.
about we talk about my baseball days when I went to Siena Heights and we lived in the dorms with community bathrooms. Like
Mhm.
that was the etiquette was most important there because you're living in a dorm room. So you have public bathrooms. You don't have the luxury like you did at home having your bathroom. So when you walk into that public bathroom, like there were people that just didn't give a shit. They'd walk in playing music on their speakers, like being loud, like making an appearance. And it's like, dudes, like we all live
Yeah.
on a floor with a public restroom. Like you should understand that we all want some like privacy here. Like it should almost be treated like a library,
Yes. Yes. The
you
talking
know?
on the phone. in the
Oh,
bathroom,
oh,
I think that's the worst one, right? Like that's has to be the worst one.
horrible. Horrible.
There should never be a
No,
situation to where you talk on the phone when
no.
you're in a public bathroom. I
Horrible.
mean, talking on the phone in public to begin with is
Is
ridiculous,
obnoxious.
right?
Unless you have AirPods in. Like if you have AirPods in and you're on the phone at like Target while you're grocery shopping, that's one thing. That's
But and then
whatever.
keep it short, like
Keep it
cut, like
short.
do what
Yeah.
you got to do,
Yeah.
say what you got to say and move
But
on.
when
Don't
you're just
like the
walking
whole
around,
conversation like you're
oh,
catching up with
speakerphones,
oh the speakerphone
speakerphone in public, when you're
and then the
walking around,
yelling in the
oh,
speakerphone as if
yeah,
the phone doesn't do the work for you. Like you have to yell so that they can
you're
hear
like
you
to talk
where
like
they are.
this. Yeah, no, it's horrible. I was at Aldi earlier today, and here's a new one that I actually I don't think I've ever seen this. I was at Aldi earlier, and I had people with the speakerphone on, like with customer service. So like they just had like the hold music on speaker like this. Like, why are we calling like customer service for anything in public? And you have like this like the hold music and like the automated message just playing while you're
And then I
walking
always
around.
hate the people who have like the speakerphone, but then they talk like this. Like you're on speakerphone. Like the whole point of the speakerphone is to be able to be like this,
Yeah.
right? Like if
Yeah.
you're like if you're doing this, then take it off the speaker.
Yeah.
Like what are
Right.
we doing? Yeah, oh, I'm on speaker. Like what?
But yeah. No,
Anyway,
yeah.
so
Well,
I think that about covers
yeah.
it. We didn't do any games today, but I think that we had some good topics. I think that we
Yeah.
brought up
Some
some
good
good things. There's some
dialogue.
questions that we can have people can respond to and jump into the comments and let us know like what
Mhm.
are their etiquettes,
Yeah.
what do they think the best beer experience is, what are their thoughts on the Oktoberfest, and then also the what we didn't even get into the Ryder Cup stuff. I mean that was
Yeah, well, you know what? We can do some reaction TikToks to that type of stuff throughout the week,
yeah.
if need be. But yeah, the problem is we ramble a lot, but it's a podcast. That's what happens. That's
Yeah.
what happens on a podcast. You just ramble, you just get after it. But I think that's all we got covered. You got anything?
Nope, that's what we got. So
I do want to say real
appreciate it.
quick before we sign off, we do have a list of guests. And it keeps building. The list keeps
And
building.
not only a list of guests, but we're starting to build a list of locations.
Yes, yes, that as well. So, stay tuned for more guests. Stay tuned for more on-site episodes. A lot of exciting stuff that we're trying to get into play here. So, but yeah, that's all I got for this week. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Love y'all, and see y'all on the next one.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Flippity flip.